Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cyber Voice podcast with Jummy. I'm still your host, Jummy, and I'm happy to be live again with you. Wherever you are hearing me from, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for watching at this particular time, wherever you are. I've got new person on the show today, and I'll be introducing him. He's got a lot of experience wrap in his portfolio, and I'm talking about someone with impact in Africa. Um, I'm happy to have one of the nominees of Dr. Ireti Akerele. If you remember that episode, it's just down there. You can just search it on the channel. You'll be able to watch that episode. Um, his name is Solape Akinde. I hope that I pronounced that well.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Solape Akinde. So yeah, we've got Solape Akinde on the show today, and then he is I'm going to read his portfolio. It's a long list, and I would delight in reading it out to everyone, so that you're not wasting your time today. You've got your whatever you want to know, you've got it all covered, because we'll be exploring diverse questions. You will be answering from real conversation, from real experience rather, and then he will be answering us. So I'm going to read his full portfolio. He sent it to me, and I like it. It's quite comprehensive. So grab your tea, your cup of tea, and then listen well, because the person you're about to hear is not just an ordinary cybersecurity leader. He's an expert, and he has done so much. He has impacted lives across Africa. All right. So I'm going to be reading it from the screen, because it's a long one. I could not take it off my head. Um, Oluwasolape Akinde is a cybersecurity governance, risk and compliance professional with experience spanning more than a decade across various industries in Africa. His expertise cut across cybersecurity, business continuity, risk management, IT governance, and data protection. He started his career with Total A&P before moving to NTN, and subsequently Digital Jewels Limited, where he caught his teeth as a GRC leader. So you're going to be hearing a leader today. He is a certified implementer and auditor, having delivered several management system standard projects for over 85 organizations in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Congo, in Cote d'Ivoire, and the Gambia. As a certified trainer facilitating numerous notable standards, Solape has successfully trained over 700 professionals across Africa in several management system standards. At Digital Jewels Limited, he was the head process consulting IT standard, responsible for East, West, and Central Africa. And it was during his tenure that the organization won PECB's Best Training Partner in Africa for 2 consecutive years, 2019 and 2020 specifically. After a long stint at Digital Jewel, he joined IHS Tower as the manager, third party risk management. And after that, he became the head of IT governance, risk, and compliance of 7 Up Bottling Company Limited. That's a PepsiCo bottlers, a position he currently holds. I'll just do 2 more paragraphs, and then we can get started. Sholakbe is the managing partner at SLP Consulting Limited, where he provides consultancy and advisory services to organizations in sub-Saharan Africa, specializing in cybersecurity, business continuity, privacy, and risk management. Sholakbe is the founder of GRC Afrique, which is on a mission to raise the next generation governance, risk, and compliance professional. They have successfully graduated over 200 professionals from two sets of the cohorts from over um, 35 countries. Solape Akinde holds several certifications and from international um, um, vendors, the ISO, so many ISOs here, and he's passionate about seeing and driving African businesses to becoming formidable institutions built to last through the implementation and maintenance of international best practice standards. He enjoys football. I'm curious to know your club, but he enjoys football, traveling, and is an ardent propagator of good governance. Permit me to welcome Solape Akinde on the show today. Thank you so much for joining the show, Mr. Solape.
Thank you for having me, and I hope I'll be able to do justice to the
Of
topic. Thank
course,
you.
you
For having me.
will with this massive summary. It's just a summary, and then it's a massive one. Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for
Today's
having me.
episode, it's tag around building trust at scale, the human side of governance, risk, and compliance leadership. And the angle that we're going to be exploring is on the fact that many people tend to see cybersecurity as technology, controls, and compliance framework. We've got a lot of frameworks. And your journey in GRC is a spectacular one. So we would like to explore how leaders build trust, influence culture, and also create resilient organizations in the environment where security is often viewed as a business enabler. Of course, we are business enabler, and if anything happens to cybersecurity in any organization, the other ones are in mess. So we don't want to. So this is the angle that we're going to be diving in on the show, and you've got five high impact questions. Five high impact questions, and then we will move into two signatory questions, and that will be all. So, are you ready to share your experience? Are you ready
Please,
to give us the real talk?
please,
We don't want you to talk about the technical, okay? On this
please,
show, we don't
please.
talk about the threats, we don't talk about the vulnerabilities. We really want you to explore the human side, how you have moved, across board. So, on to the first question. Looking back at your journey from Total to MTN to Digital Jewel, and now you are leading GRC and data protection initiatives. What experience taught you that cybersecurity is ultimately a people challenge rather than a technology challenge? So I want you to have to reminisce about um, your experience, how you have moved from big names that I've mentioned, and tell me, when did you get to know that cybersecurity is actually a people challenge and not only technology challenge?
Okay, thank you very much for that question, and I must say thank you for inviting me. And a podcast like this, help to preach the message of cybersecurity awareness, all over the world, and we need to have more homegrown platforms like this, such that the message can continue to be spread as wide as possible. Okay, so to your question. All right. So it's been a very interesting journey over the years, right? And from my profile, you can tell that I've, sort of with every sense of humility done a lot of stuff across several African countries, right? And
Yes.
then in several organizations, what that then does is that I've been able to then see from both an insider point, I was from the consulting part point of view and also going into the industry. So I've got, both knowledge. One of the things you then realize is that over the years, before now, many years ago, right, you find that, I'm even going to take it from basics, what you said, you want to break it down. Let's talk about the real issues, right? You find
Yeah.
that the CISO role was an illusion before. few years ago. What you just had then was some guy, the maybe head of IT security or IT security manager, reporting into the CIO. All right, I report to the head of IT. That was literally what it was before. Now, over the last few years, with the advent of cybersecurity advancement, with
Mm,
the threats, vulnerabilities, exposures over the years, cybersecurity then became prevalent. It became more emboldened, that you then find that the role of the CISO was then bet. And why is that? Why did that happen? Was to say that we found out that over the years, when you have situations whereby security is playing the role of a back burner, all right,
mm,
the business, that means the enterprise, the decision makers, are not able to see the value for which security is playing. What that then does is that security then becomes second fiddle. So you just find a situation whereby the guy is somewhere there doing all the vulnerability scans, just reporting to the head of IT. Head of IT decides to report whatever he wants to report. As you know, nobody wants to report themselves. So IT then sidesteps a lot of things that are making them look bad. Okay, you've not configured this, you've not updated that, you've not patched this, and
mm.
they sidestep down. I only report whatever they want to report. What am I trying to say? Because of our time, when we then give cybersecurity the highest level of visibility, let us sit down at the round table where decisions are being made. You then find that the CISO is able to then bring some of these cybersecurity challenges, the issues to the front burner at the highest level of decision making,
Yeah.
such that the necessary supports resources are then given to cybersecurity to make informed decisions. So back to your question, then answer. What has then changed is that we've then see that now cybersecurity has become an enabler for business sustainability. It's
Mm.
no longer that department that is just spending
Back.
money. We're not just buying technology. We are
Mm,
building at the back, like we are like the foundation, the backbone, such that because you then understand that you know what they say, it takes you 100 years to build a reputation, and just one incident, and voila, everything comes crumbling. What we are trying to say is that when you then make cybersecurity the enabler of the business, such that no matter what you are building, all right, big or small, cybersecurity is the driver. It then allows us as a business to be able to, as a matter of fact, understand that for everything we are doing, security must be at the back of our mind. So whether it be an application, whether we are trying to roll out a new strategy, a new product, or what have you, what that then means is that cybersecurity is the enabler for business to be sustainable. So if you go into several of the management system standards, take for example the 27001 standard, one of the requirements for leadership in clause 5 talks about what? The top management shall ensure that what? The security is embedded into existing systems. So you are no longer seeing cybersecurity as a side. You're no longer seeing cybersecurity as a side. You're seeing cybersecurity as part of the driver to ensure business health. So cybersecurity is running the business from an enterprise point of view, such that we no longer produce or roll out vulnerable applications, vulnerable solutions, or strategies that makes the organization exposed. So that cybersecurity then runs side by side with the strategy of the organization, such that cybersecurity is like the eye that then catches anything that can make us exposed. All right, us to reduce. So, as a matter of fact, you know what they say: you cannot totally eliminate risk, but at best, what you can do is what reduce the efficacy, the impact in the event, and if it does occur, you can then be able to respond accordingly. That the business is better and is better sustainable by building the right controls in place and the right technological advancement and all of that. So, I'll stop here. I will take other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that response. Let's move to the next question. Tell us about a time when a security initiative failed, not because the technology was wrong, but because people are not fully on board. What did that experience teach you about leadership and about influence?
Okay, interesting question, by the way, and I like this question because during my trainings, my cybersecurity trainings, I usually cite this example when it comes to stakeholder management. All right, so of course, for confidential reasons, I won't be disclosing the name of the organization, but I'll just sort of out the story, right? A few years back, I maybe 2019 or something, I was implementing information security management system project for an organization in East Africa, right? Uh, in Rwanda. All right. So at the time, something interesting happened. They had just appointed a new CIO, right? And the new CIO came on board. So one of the things that happened was that, when you come into a new environment, you want to make impact. Of course, you want your voice to be heard, and of course, value for money being spent. All right. So one of those things. So one of the things that he did like a quick security assessment of the infrastructure in the organization. And one thing that he observed was that across the organization, all the ports of the users, that's their endpoints, their laptops, were not blocked. That everybody could bring in a flash drive, USB stick, and just plug into the system, take out information, take out documents, or bring in maybe vulnerable or corrupt flash drive, put it in there. So he observed that everybody's ports in the organization, or everybody's laptop, the ports were open. So anyone can just plug anything and then remove anything from the organization. There was no control whatsoever. So immediately he called the head of IT infrastructure. He said, block all ports. Imagine this, he was appointed, let's say on Monday, he resumed. Wednesday morning, everybody came to the office and all the ports were blocked. Now, if I ask you, what kind of initiative was that? Was fantastic initiative. That's a very lovely security control. What are you trying to do? You're trying to prevent entry and exit of information, data access. You're trying to restrict the amount of data that goes in or out of the organization, right? For several reasons why that's a good initiative. That's a very good control. Now, the problem was it didn't do proper stakeholder management. Okay? So now, right strategy, right initiative, but wrong approach, wrong methodology. So what happened was that, of course, there was chaos, and you can imagine, he's a chief. He has fellow chiefs. There are some directors, executive directors. That's some of our. Imagine that. Okay, the guys down the line they can grumble. Of course, they won't say it to his face, but the guys at this level and those above him, they were not having, like, who is this guy? He just came in. Who they are, like, excuse my French, and like, how dare you? So it was really, it was kind of like, why can you? Who gave you the permission to block my port? Blah blah blah. So now the guy was lost. This is a chief, the CIO, remember? So it was like, I'm trying to help you guys here. Your ports are exposed. This is the now. You know what we say after the fact. It is now that he has put the control in place. Now trying to explain to the stakeholders the benefit of what he's trying to do, which is what he should have done before then carrying out, that initiative, rolling out that control. So what am I trying to? So it was a lot of back and forth. The executives, they were not having it and all of that. So long story short, they agreed to disagree. What they then did was that they gave justification for exclusions. So the directors and some chiefs, and the MD, of course, were given that privilege. And a few people in the marketing team because of what they do, but every other person, they left their ports blocked. What am I trying to say is that more often than not, in cybersecurity, in security, you can have the best of intentions, but stakeholder management is very important. In fact, stakeholder management is even more important than what you're trying to do. When you have the right buy-in, especially of the decision makers, you have an easier life. You'll be able to roll out your initiatives, your plans, and everybody will buy into it. But if you think because you have the best intentions, you just want to roll out without doing proper stakeholder management, they will sabotage you, they will frustrate your efforts, and at the end of the day, you won't achieve much. So I just want to, so it's important that strategy, methodology, stakeholder management runs side by side. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Let's move on to the third question. You've trained hundreds of professionals across Africa and funded GRC Africa to develop the next generation of GRC leaders. What qualities consistently separate those who merely work in cybersecurity from those who become a transformational leader?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. And excuse me, to answer your question, I would say that over the years, having trained, getting to over 1,000 professionals across several African countries, right? What I then find for those that then become transformational leaders is that they've got people skills. Beyond the technical competence, you must be able to translate, the language of the business and marry it with, technology, with cybersecurity. What am I trying to say? Businesses can spend millions of dollars, thousands of dollars on procuring the best technology tools, the best cybersecurity tools, the best implementing the best controls. However, you must then understand that as of today till tomorrow, people are still the greatest form of risk in any organization. What that then means is that it is the cybersecurity professionals that are then able to manage people that understand stakeholder management and then are able to translate what cybersecurity means from a technical term into the business language and then what it together. So, you know what they say? In the land where there are no laws, there are no offenses. Same way, in the land where if in the organization I do not have a buy-in, I do not have a leg in the game, I do not have a skin in the game, then I feel like it doesn't concern me. What am I trying to say? One of the things I do during my, in my consulting practice is that I tell organizations when I talk to executives, right? I say, don't let cybersecurity be the responsibility of the technical team alone, of the cybersecurity of the IT team. Let it be an enterprise initiative. That means that the language from the top management is that cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. So if that language is clear, everybody, so somebody in HR understands that I must ensure that when somebody is coming into a new staff is coming into the organization, I do background check. That's cybersecurity school nature. That all staff sign the oath of secrecy. Somebody in admin must ensure that as far as physical security is concerned, nobody comes into the building without being identified. All right. Somebody in maintenance must ensure that what looking at in our data center, our humidifiers, our HVACs, everything that we have there, FM 200 are all serviced. That is how they contribute to the ecosystem. Somebody in legal must ensure that what all our intellectual properties, our trademarks, our trade secrets, IPs are registered with the respective government agency. You can see it's a chain. Everybody has a role to play. So don't think cybersecurity, just the IT guys. Somebody in vendor management, in procurement, must ensure that third-party risk management is not played with. That we must ensure that performance evaluation of our vendors, that we don't bring vulnerable vendors into our environment. So that means that everybody has a role to play. It's an ecosystem. So when everybody then understands that I have a skin in the game, so at the end of the day, it adds something to my scorecard. It adds something to me at the end of the day. So, but when people think no matter what I do, I have no business. You know what it is. From history, you find that for organizations that are falling prey to phishing attacks, social engineering attacks, usually is always some guy in a non-technical team. So you must then ensure that those are the people that even pay attention to the most. I digress. Please give me a minute. When I'm conducting cybersecurity maturity assessment for organizations and I want to check awareness, I have a strategy that I use. I don't talk to staff. Who do I talk to? I talk to the cleaners. I talk to the security at the gates. I talk to the drivers of the buses. What am I trying to see? More often than not, that strategy has worked for me. Because even if they are doing awareness, most times organizations focus on the core team, the management, the staff, but they are forgetting that that cleaner, there's somebody that cleans the server room. There's somebody that cleans the data center. It's somebody that cleans the MD's office. And if that person is compromised, there's a lot that can do. That person can drop a kilogram somewhere and nobody will know. You might think they're illiterate, but some of them are educated. It might just be conditioned that they're what they're what they're, it is that I do what they're doing. So what am I trying to say? Don't everybody's involved. The driver of the bus has a lot of confidential information. If that person is compromised, there's a lot that can go wrong. So you must then ensure that what the language of cybersecurity is not seen as a technical term. Everybody. So a cleaner must understand that my role is to ensure that if I'm accessing a particular area, nobody should be able to use my access. A cleaner must understand tailgating. A driver must understand what confidentiality is dropping that whatever conversation my boss is having in the car while I'm driving him, it's not for me to discuss with any third party. The security at the gate must understand about what we are going to reduce intruders. We are going to eliminate intruders from entering the environment. So, what am I trying to say? It's a chain. So, to answer your question, back to your point, is that the 21st century leaders, those that will do well in this industry, in this profession, are those that are able to interpret what cybersecurity means in terms of strategy, and then the business, what is the business strategy, and marry it together, and then be able to present to everybody to understand that what cybersecurity means this, but if you do this, this is how you support the end game, this is how you support the vision, and everybody's involved. So everybody must have something to look forward to, must have a skin in the game. Every member of staff, no matter how low they are in the ranks, must have something that are contributing to the cybersecurity strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's move to the fourth question. When people think about cyber incidents, they often focus on financial losses or technical failures. Now, I want you to talk to me in your experience. What are the human consequences of cyber incidents that leaders don't talk about enough? That's the question. Please, I need you to be sincere around this because there are so many of them that we are facing nowadays as defenders. So let me hear your thought.
Okay, very simple. Very simple. Like the saying goes, it takes you hundreds of years to build a reputation and one incident. And what does that mean? It means that as an organization, right, you must be very, very careful, in a sense that you think, oh, we're trying to avoid an incident. There's a financial impact, or whatnot, and all of that. What about the reputation of the business? Now, you remember that it's a competitive market. If your customers have a feeling or a shadow of doubt that my data, my information is not safe with you, regardless of the industry you're playing in, whether it's manufacturing, financial, aviation, whatever, every industry has data. Every organization has data that they keep of their customers. If I feel that my data is not safe, it's compromised, all right? Even if you are working in government, what that does is that you erode stakeholder confidence. And once that stakeholder's confidence has been eroded, every other things become secondary. The profitability that you're pursuing, the market leader initiatives that you're pursuing, every other thing. So what we are saying is that side by side, you protect your reputation with your life. And let me digress a bit. Resilience is also part of cybersecurity. Let me talk about business continuity for a bit. In doing a business impact analysis, all right, an organization has identified, okay, their business processes. And as you know, all processes are important, but not all processes are critical. you know always that conversation that, oh, are you saying that if there's time to fire people, I'll be the first to go? No, that's not it. It just shows that in the event of a crisis, in the event of an outage, we need to prioritize the processes that what have the lowest returning time objectives, the RTOs and the MAOs, MTPDs. Why? Because resources are scarce, basic law of economics, and we have to prioritize opportunity cost. What are the things that we cannot be thinking about paying salary when there's fire in our data center? We should be thinking of doing marketing initiative when power is out. Does that make sense? There's prioritization of our efforts. What am I trying to say? I'm digressing. Is to say that in an organization, you must think of the impacts beyond financial, regulatory, reputational. And there's also the sunk cost of mindset. Imagine if you're an organization that every time you always have an incident, you always have an incident. The guys that are working in that team, they'll be mentally unstable because even they are sleeping at night and they're expecting a call that, oh, we are down again. Oh, there's an incident. So they're always fighting fires. So you must sort of build a redundant system such that what you can afford to go to bed and sleep like a baby, so to speak, figuratively speaking, such that, but you must ensure that in everything you are doing, the reputation of the organization must be protected with your life because that's why you are in existence. If you lose that, it only takes a matter of time before you start losing money, before your regulators come for you, before your customers, are no longer buying into whatever it is that you're selling. So you must ensure that beyond every other thing, financial and all of that, your reputation is your gold standard. Thank you very much.
Of course, while we talk about brand reputational damage, another thing that is very popular around the human consequence of cyber incidents is the stress, the fatigue that every
Nobody's sleeping.
defender, experience.
Exactly.
And that can also cause a mind shift in the life of defender. Imagine you taking having lunch or trying to enjoy weekend with your family, and then the next thing is, oh, you don't know what will happen at the workplace, the following Monday. So it's a lot. It's a whole lot when it comes to the human side of cyber incidents.
I would like to also piggyback on what you just said and to then say that more often than not, organizations that you see that struggle a lot anytime there's an incident also has to do with lack of proper business continuity strategy. Because if an organization has properly built business continuity, so let me digress, please. Sorry, I'm a teacher, so sometimes I get into my element, right? You find that in building your business continuity strategy, first thing you are doing is that your business impact analysis. At the end of your business impact analysis, you're supposed to achieve results, which is what prioritization of processes in order of criticality. After which, then you then build to move to your business continuity risk assessment, which you then sort of put controls in place. After which, you then move to your business continuity strategy, the strategy for your people, processes, technology, premise, and what have you. But where am I going? Is to say that what when you then have done this strategy, then you build plans, document your plans based on the output of the BIA, and then test your plans. Once you're able to do that effectively, in the event of anything going wrong, you'll find that you're able to respond better. Nothing ever meets you by surprise. You are not in chaos. You remember pandemic happened, right? I was in an African country just before the global lockdown in March 2020, and I was in a West African country. And just few days before that global lockdown, the central bank of that country mandated all the banks to submit a pandemic response plan. And I put it to you that 60-70% of what banks didn't have one pandemic response plan because it's not something that they're supposed to. And they didn't, the business continuity strategy initiative did not think of this was not something about. Remember, Ebola had happened a few years before that. Well, not Ebola was a one off, he's never going to come back. But COVID-19 was looking us in the face. So what are we trying to say? That in an organization that builds redundancy, looking at every available scenario, be it fire, flood, civil unrest, executive kidnap, pandemic, whatever, plan for every eventuality. Once you have that in place and you're testing them intermittently, in the event of everything going wrong, I'm not saying you're going to coast or you'll be relaxed. Everybody understands that you activate your plans and the business will be better for you. So just to answer that question when you said that when there's an incident, everybody is, there's anxiety, there's restlessness and all of that. It also shows that we have not put proper planning in place. Once business continuity is effective, regardless of whatever happens, business will continue. Albeit at minimum capacity, but you will not stop running. So start thinking of an organization that is redundant enough to withstand any eventuality. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take the last question on the five high impact question, right? Imagine it is 10 years from now. I need your imagination to play, and I want you to tell me what you just imagined. Imagine it's 10 years from now, and cybersecurity across Africa has evolved exactly as you hoped. What will be different about the people? What do you think will be different about the culture? And even the leadership driving that future. Do you think anything will have changed or will still going to be there? Or what what did you just imagine, Because I just want you to imagine 10 years from now in Africa's cybersecurity landscape.
Okay, so a mix of everything. So what I find in Africa, right, with all of the things I've done across several African countries, is that different markets are different maturity levels. You find that Nigeria is a bit mature, quite mature. In West Africa, I mean, closely followed by Ghana. You see, whatever the Central Bank of Nigeria releases a new maybe standards blueprint in less than a few months' time, you see the Ghana Central Bank too does that and everything. If you go to the east, you find that Kenya and Rwanda they are playing leadership there. Of course, you go to the south, South Africa, of course, the market leader. Go to Northern Africa, the big boys, the Egypts, the Morocco, the Tunisia, of course, the maturity. So, what am I trying to say is that you can't have Africa as a blanket because different markets have different maturity. But what you would then find is that a lot of what you call regulators now are beginning to sort of adopt and open up to it. So, for example, you find that Gambia, for example, I'll mention them because it's a good example. Find that they have adopted a lot of standards blueprint that it's the big boys in West Africa have already adopted because they have seen that we cannot be lacking behind. We need to sort of ensure that our ecosystem is also sustainable, is what less vulnerable. All right, so they are adopting all of these things. So to answer your question, in 10 years' time, I want to see an Africa that is optimized, looking at the capability maturity model, optimized, with less human interaction. Now, in the sense that, yes, technology will be there, but the people Then understand that I have a role to play, you have a role to play, everybody has a role to play. Beyond that as well, I see an Africa whereby our resources will be exported to the world. So we are no longer a consumption center. We are now like market leaders. When you talk about the best cybersecurity professionals in the world, the red teams, the blue teams, you come to Africa. We are sitting here and we are exporting our talents to the world. It's already happening anyway, but we want it to be at scale, massive, with what India is doing in the world, what China is doing in the world. Africa can do that as well. With the rights in front of like all things we are doing in GRC Africa. That's adding to the vision. You see an Africa whereby cybersecurity professionals in the continent are playing on a global scale. We will sit at the boardrooms where these decisions are being made, whereby cybersecurity strategy for the World Bank, for United Nations being rolled out. We have been put into it. And then beyond that is at the grassroots level, centralization of the language. That is where I'm going to. When the market woman, the mama in the village selling biscuits and sweets can understand that, oh, if somebody sends me a message to say, oh, share my pin, I no go share them. I will not give it to you. The all those our mothers, our fathers always broadcasting WhatsApp messages. They understand that what it's not everything you see that you will share. It's not every site they send to you that you will open. So the centralization of the message, it goes to the nooks and crannies in the remotest villages. That everybody understands what it means to be a cybersecurity professional. That what I have to be careful what I share on social media. It's not everything happening in my life that I'll share on Facebook, on Instagram, on my WhatsApp. Everybody knows the school that my children are going to. Everybody knows the country I'm going for vacation. Everybody knows my address because we are trying to get, there's that in psychology, that dopamine, where people are liking your pictures. It makes you feel good. But be careful what you post out there. Social engineering is a thing. So, what am I trying to say? In long story short, this decentralization of the language of cybersecurity. Every person down the line understands at their basic level decentralize the joy. So that my joy is to say that what I go to a remote village in Core North, in Core South, in Core West, and they understand, oh, cybersecurity, what it mean? I understand, say, I don't go click anything. My phone, I don't go give anybody my password. That's what it means to them, and that's the future I see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sholakwe, for that. I'm looking forward towards exporting African cyber talent as well. And I know that we still have a lot of work to do at the grassroots, like you mentioned. The mama at the village selling pepper and biscuits, they need to understand it, especially on the broadcast of WhatsApp message broadcast. It's a
I
whole
agree.
lot there's some groups I belong to that they'll just send in some things. I'm like, no, you guys should be careful here. It's not real. They are meant to lure you into another site. So we still have a lot of work to do to when it comes to when it comes to grassroots education, cybersecurity awareness education. All right, so that would be for the 5 high impact questions. I have just 2 more, which are going to be really short. The first one is, what is one belief about cybersecurity leadership that you heard 10 years ago that you no longer believe in today? I don't know if you have anyone. If you have, please share it with us.
My earlier years, my understanding was that Sholape, you need to be the best technical cybersecurity professional in the world. So that was my belief, my earlier years. So I read all the books, attended all the conferences, all the webinars, all the certifications, all the labs, setting it up because I believe that was it. But 10 years down the line, I then understand that you can have all of those, you can be the most technically competent person in the room, but nobody's seeing you. You're in one black hole. Yeah, you are fighting fires, you are frustrated, your reports are sitting in somebody's shelf, nobody's seeing it. And I realized that now communication, stakeholder management is even more important than what happens is that technical guy will give the report to you that understand language of business that business listens to, and you'll be able to then present the language. If not, your reports, everything you are doing is in the dark. You know, you must understand, like I keep saying, I emphasized the language of business. Because at the end of the day, all the cybersecurity jargons that we're talking about, if the business is not in existence, if the business is not profitable, if the business is not doing well, we won't even be in the business anyway. So you must then understand that what while we are trying to make sure that the lights are on, the business is protected. Looking at all these initiatives, you must then make, I'll say this, don't quote me right away. Something I usually do for some of my clients that I see that you know, their executives don't sort of appreciate the value of cybersecurity. They they just oh, okay, regulatory requirement, let's tick the box. Oh man, regulator said we should do it. Oh, they're just trying to get business. Oh, Mastercard, Visa card said we should bring this certificate. Let's just do it. Oh, I need PCI to pursue this business. Just give the certificate. Those ones, know what I do? I sell fear to them. Cost benefit analysis, and I do a simple analysis. Say, if one incident happens to you, this is what you stand to lose in terms of numbers. This money that you are thinking you are saving, that you think that you are using it to declare profit to your stakeholders and your shareholders, one incident will wipe out everything. And you don't want to be a money wise, penny wise, pounds foolish organization. You don't want to be the CEO, that came in and the business was eroded and the business was wiped off. And one incident remove you. I don't want to mention names, for confidentiality. Businesses that have been breached and literally they could not recover from it. What am I trying to say is that you are selling the fear that come. I'm not preaching you to come and I'm not doing compliance here. We're not ticking the box. If you don't do this thing, this is what you stand to lose. So, are you willing to take the risk? Are you a gambler? So, are you risk averse? Or what's your risk appetite as an organization? So, we encourage them to see the cost benefit analysis. This is the cost. This is the benefit. If you don't do this, this is the implication. If you do this, this is the implication. And then you find that. So, sometimes when we do a pen test and we're trying to report, I don't start doing the jargons and tell you that what we just bring out is that see your email, see your email. I can access your email. I have a password. CFO, I have access to your logs, to your ERP. They'll sit up, be like, wow. So you can do this. Now you have gotten their ears and they say, okay, we need to buy this, we need to procure this, we need to put this control in place, we need to sensitize our people. So what am I trying to say is that that's fear mongering. Sometimes it works because business people what they want to do is maximize profit. So, but for you, that's let them know, yes, you're trying to maximize profit, but you must make sure that while you maximize profit, let's protect our perimeter. Let's protect our defense. Let's not be vulnerable to attack. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that. So, to every cybersecurity professional listening to this episode, know that you need to understand business language and how to translate technicals into business value presentation. Communication skill is non-negotiable. Reporting skill is important, and presentation for business value is quite necessary, and there is no bypass to that. Thank you so much. The last question on this show today will be that I've heard your voice. I've heard so many things from you today. My idea, my perspective about GRC has also shifted because I used to believe that you guys just do checklist and then you collect your money and then you go. Nothing technical in whatever you are doing. But then today's show has really taught me quite a lot about what you do as a governance, risk, and compliance person. So today I want you to nominate a voice that you believe is worthy to be heard on this show, that will accept this challenge and come to this show to share their voice as well. Nominate a voice, please.
Okay, so I will be nominating Inkiruka Aimeno.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah, I know. I just believe that someone will mention NK's name. But yes, she's a
Yes.
very solid
She's
woman.
very solid. Yeah.
I've heard her
Very
speak at some webinars quite a couple of times. So thank you so much for nominating Kiruka.
My
Dear
pleasure.
Nkirika, if you are listening or watching, or someone close to you is watching or listening at this point, please, I'm coming to your DM and you should please accept to be on this show with me. Thank you so much, Mr. Solape Akinde. I had an interesting time with you. It is full of wisdom nugget, and I can't say something less. This is an excellent conversation with a governance and risk compliance leader. Thank you so much for joining us, for joining me rather on this show. Okay, to everyone listening or watching at this point in time, wherever you are across the globe, thank you for joining the Cyber Voice podcast on today's episode. If you believe that this conversation is inspiring and is worth sharing, please do well to like, share, and comment. We want to hear your view about some of the things we've discussed. Maybe you have a different perspective. Let's hear it and let's view it on the comment section. As you know, this podcast helps to shape perspective, security culture, and it helps to hear the voice of the people behind the screen. Until I come again in the next episode, please stay cyber smart, stay cyber secure, and don't forget to share with your friends and with your communities. I'll see you again in the next episode. I remain your host, Jummy. Hopefully, we'll see again in the next 2 weeks because this show is always bi-weekly. All right, till I come your way again, take care of yourself and stay cyber smart.